Alright everybody, we're going to go live in just a moment. I'm going to give everyone a chance in the Vast Apostate Hour Facebook group to join. Spike, go ahead and unmute your mic and say a few words just so I can make sure we got sound.
Okay, hi, how's it going? This is Spike. Coming at you live from the Vast Apostate Hour with Parker, the Faithful Slave. How's that?
Magnus is coming on shortly. He's like screaming about the updates.
What's up, G-Dog? Can you hear me? Anybody hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. How's it going? This is Spike.
Good to meet you. This is Ninja. I don't have my camera because I'm in transition right now, but
That's okay. Good to meet you.
good to meet you as well.
You think Parker's still checking the sound?
Sweet. Okay. Yeah, the sound is working. I just checked. So we are good.
Excellent. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. Oh, is that Magnus?
Yeah, I'm invisible. I don't have my camera. It's packed away in my storage somewhere.
That's okay, man. You are a ninja, so it's fitting that you're invisible. I'm so glad you were able to jump on, buddy. You can be my co-host tonight. How you been up there in the frozen north? I guess it's not frozen right now, but you know what I mean.
It's anything but frozen. It's actually quite quite hot right now.
Yeah, it is here too. I'm probably not too far from where you live, actually, up here in central New York.
Oh, you're on the other side of the continent.
Oh yeah, you're towards what, Alaska or something?
Well, I'm in British Columbia, right on the border of pretty much of Washington.
Oh wow. Well, yeah, then yeah, we have nothing alike as far as our weather patterns go. So, it's good to have you guys here tonight. We're gonna have as a guest Spike R. How you been, buddy? It's good to talk to you again.
I've been doing good. Can't complain. Thanks for having me. Always fun to be on.
Yeah, the Vast Apostate Hour is going through a little bit of a hiatus, but in the meantime, there's no reason why we can't have a few live streams until we get all that straightened out. I'm really excited to have you on, Spike, because you've been doing some brainstorming with Joel, and I think people are going to want to hear the kinds of things that you've come up with, or the ideas that you've had, the thoughts that you've had for November 5th. I mean, I don't want to jump straight into that. I'd like to, hear how you're doing. I know you don't put a lot of your personal info out there, but if you could just give us a quick update. I mean, how you been, man? You've taken care of yourself lately?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Things are going pretty good. Living life, as we all do when we wake up and walk away and blow the whistle on the watchtower. So, so things are heading in the right direction. Nothing earth-shattering to report.
Good.
About the same as always, but hey, sometimes no news is good news.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I was gonna say, man. I mean, I would always like life to get better, but if it doesn't get worse, that's a victory too.
Yeah, well, hey, sometimes things come in steps. One step at a time.
Yeah, and man, it's been a crawl for me, I tell you. But I do see things getting much better in the near future. Uh-oh. I think I lost you guys. Hold on one second, I'll get them right back. Alright, so my Skype crashed or something. I don't know what, the call ended or something.
That was strange.
But it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect the live stream. That's one good thing about this new way that I'm doing live streams, is stuff like that doesn't affect it, so that's awesome. Well, anyways, so yeah, here we are, all out of the Jehovah's Witness organization, trying to do the best we can to move on with our lives, but there's this little thing that we're trying to do before we completely move on. And we've been talking about it for, what, 2 years now? This, well, it's been going on for more than that. People have been talking about 11/5/2017 for before I started making YouTube videos. How long have you been in the YouTube community exactly?
I want to say 2, maybe 3 years at the most.
So you've been around maybe longer than me. I mean, do you remember any of the videos way back when where they were talking about the day the Watchtower ceases to exist?
Yeah, so some of that stuff is before I started making videos, but we kind of picked it back up. Joel especially did, and it got resurrected and procuring the torch again, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, say what you want about Joel, but him starting the Vast Apostate Hour has gotten us all together and gotten us all to know each other to a point that I don't think had ever happened before in the community. For better or for worse, we don't always get along, which is something else that I wanted to talk about, but try to stay on point here. Oh yeah, before we get into the 11/5 stuff, I was hoping you could give us just a quick recap for those who are watching who don't necessarily know you or didn't see you last time you were on VAH. Well, just a quick overview of like your backstory, because you were, when you were in the organization, an elder. Is that right?
Yes, that's true. I served as an elder for almost 10 years. At one point, I coordinated a body of elders. I was a secretary of the body of elders. I was trained at the Patterson School for Elders. It was a week-long school. So I actually spent that week in Bethel.
Wow.
I've been in foreign language congregations. I had pioneered for a year. I served in the accounts department on the district conventions when they were called district conventions. So, I did a lot of stuff for the RBC. I did disaster relief. So I had quite a history. I've seen quite a bit of the organization.
Sounds
Wow,
like you were very involved.
Yes, I was. I was a true believer. I was thoroughly indoctrinated.
man, that's nuts. So, okay, real quick, what led you in the path out of the organization?
So what led me in the path out of the organization, strangely enough, was I finally found a wife who would have been a good organizational wife. And of course, when you date as a Jehovah's Witness, you can't really get to know the person. So I married her, and it turned out she had some pretty severe emotional problems and turned my life upside down. So at that point, I had I actually went to one of the other elders on my body for help 6 months in. He says, "Oh well, the first year of marriage is tough," which is pretty much like, forget about it. 6 months later, same deal. So at that point, I'm like, all right, I've either got to strengthen my faith to weather this storm, and I'm going to do this on my own because these guys aren't going to help me. So I started with the thing that was the biggest weak point for me, which was 1914. And of course, when you go back in the literature and look at 1914, it falls apart really, really fast.
Sure does.
Well, we do have that flow chart with Mr. Let to explain everything about generations, so it all makes neat and tidy sense.
Thank
Oh yeah,
God.
I was well awake by the time that. So I was an elder when they came up with the overlapping generations, and when that came out, I was like, all right, they obviously don't care anymore about making it look like it comes from the scriptures. So I think I was sort of on my way to waking up anyways. I just needed that big, huge, massive, horrible thing in my life to snap me out of it.
Wow. Yeah, and it's funny you said that about the elders telling you, well, the first years of marriage is tough. I had an elder tell me that exact same thing when me and my ex-wife started having problems. Oh, well, the first 2 years is always the hardest thing. And then they just, it's amazing to me for an organization that's supposed to be so close-knit, how little of their personal time they actually take to try and help each other. At least that was my experience, because no one reached out to us, and they saw us crashing and burning like hard.
Well, you're true. So let me explain that from the standpoint of someone who's been on the other side of it. And so part of it is when the elders help, they really don't help anyways. The only thing they'll ever tell you is you've got to study more, you've got to pray more, you've got to attend more meetings, you've got to go in service more. And I was doing all those things. In my marriage, we studied about marriage from the Society's literature a couple of times, and it worked for like one day.
Man.
So that's the thing is when you have an emotional issue, reading their literature doesn't help it. Reading the Bible doesn't help it. Praying doesn't help it. You have to address it. Just like you can't pray away a broken leg, you also can't pray away an emotional issue. So they set you up to fail when you get in a situation like that, and then all they do is blame you. Part of their help is, well, how could you have made the situation better? I'm like, I can't. The same rules don't apply in two different, from day to day. There's nothing I can do. Sometimes it's fine, sometimes it's not.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Well, I hear you. Ninja, what are you doing?
I have a rare day to myself, so that's how I got on here, and I'm just enjoying this insight because it's nice to hear from someone who has been in the depths of the organization like that. Because I've been out, as you guys, the fellows probably know, I've been out for over like 20 years, something like 23 years or something. And anyways, I'm a little out of touch with what's going on now and the inner workings of what's going on. So it's always a good eye-opener, and it's good to hear from a close insider perspective. And I'm all ears, Jim.
Awesome. Well,
What
guys,
do you want to hear?
I wanna address the 11.5 stuff, but before I do, I just want to make sure that the live chat is not like tearing each other apart, because as you guys know, they like to do that. They really like to do that. There's always human sacrifices, as Joel always says. Let me refresh my channel here. Jump into the live chat and see.
I can't even see live chat in my feed.
You're not going to be able to with Skype. Mag, okay. If you want to see what I'm broadcasting on my screen, you're going to have to go to my YouTube channel and watch guys, and watch the stream from there. But if you do that, make sure you mute it, because you're going to be having us talking right before you hear it on YouTube, and that's just going to be...
I remember those technical difficulties from the early VAW episode.
Joel, for some reason, Joel wants Spike to say the word chowder.
Yeah, New England style, right? Chowder. Is that what you want?
I think that's what he...
The next question is, I prefer New England chowder to Manhattan chowder.
I think that's what it is. Evie, I would love to send you the link. I'm sorry, but the link I sent you is not going to work because we ended up having to go through Skype instead of Google Hangouts. Spike and Magnus were not able to use the Google Chrome tonight. We're not really sure why. Now, I can try to add you to the call, but something tells me that Skype will only let you do like 3 at a time. Am I right about that?
You can do more.
Yeah? Alright, let me try.
Yeah,
let me see if I can... Well, I don't know if she has Skype.
Way back in the day, Tony Balkin had set up like 9 people on a Skype call.
Well, I know that you used to be able to do stuff like that, but I think now you have to pay for like more than 3 people.
Oh, you might be right. They changed it a lot.
They did change it.
Oh yeah.
So we'll have to get Evie on next time. I'm sorry, Evie. But all right, so let's get down to it, Spike. November 5th, 2017, which is only in like 3 months or less now. I don't even know. But we, me, Joel, I'm Worldly. His name's Zeb. I almost forgot his name. We are going to be at the new facility in Warwick. Their brand new headquarters, which to my knowledge no one has protested yet. This will be the first protest that I know of. And we're inviting as many XJWs/apostates to this shindig as possible. Make a big deal out of it. But if not, if they can't make it, which is understandable, I mean, not a lot of people can just, travel across the nation. That's understandable. If you can't, we're encouraging everyone to make a big stink in their own town, locally. Do something. Even if you're just on the bus and you talk to the person next to you, say, hey, did you know the Australian Royal Commission, the Jehovah's Witnesses, were investigated for over 1,000 unreported child, you know the drill. Even if it's just something like that. But you had some interesting thoughts regarding this whole situation, and I'd like to hear what you and Joel have come up with.
Yeah, so I'm basing my opinions. I read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. It's an interesting book. It's not necessarily about warfare. It applies to a lot of things in life. But anyways, one of the points that he made in his book was you never besiege a city. You always draw a foe out into a field where you can defeat them in battle. So the point that I was taking from that, applying that to the protest, is if we besiege the Watchtower compound by marching up on it, we may create negative blowback in the media where it looks as if we're attacking them. And they don't have to come out to confront us, and they may actually win that confrontation if we do it that way. However, if we get a permit somewhere, we set up, and we actually invite them to come and speak and address our grievances, say, listen, here's the problem. One, we know that they won't do that anyways, but then we've taken the moral high ground. We've drawn them into a battlefield where they don't stand a chance of winning, even if they do come to address us, because they have nothing but their own authority to support the reason why they're doing the things that they're doing. And meanwhile, we have a number of people there, each of whom will have a story that can be told to say, look, this is what membership of your organization has done to me and my life. Here's the effect. Here's what it did to my family. And no doubt there'll be people there that know victims of child abuse. There might be people there who have lost individuals who have not taken blood transfusions. There will probably be people there who are forced back into abusive relationships. And if we can create this environment where we're allowed to tell those stories and invite them to come and address our concerns and say, listen, we're not trying to destroy your organization. I mean, obviously all of us would be happy if there was no more Watchtower. But the truth is, if we could just end disfellowshipping, if we could end the ban on blood transfusions, if we could protect children by forcing them to report child abuse, most of us probably are going to have a lot less complaint about the Watchtower. So if we frame it like that, we might be able to get a lot more positive media coverage of the event.
I think that that's phenomenal, actually. I think that this idea could potentially make this thing 10 times better, and I'm really glad you thought of it, because honestly, what our initial idea, or the idea I had, I mean, I still want to gather at this park. It's called Ringwood Park, and it's only like 3, maybe 4 miles south of the Warwick facility. I thought after we had a little picnic, had a little gathering, had some fun or whatever, we would, take signs and march down the highway to their facility. But there are a number of problems with that, and so inviting them to us might be the way to go. Because for one, I was thinking about it. I believe they have a gate and someone who operates the gate and lets people in and out. I don't know this for sure because Google Maps is not updated since they built Warwick. But if I were them, I probably would have that.
Oh, they have a gate on almost everything they own. You kidding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as the
I don't know if
farthest,
it's to keep people in or to keep people out.
yeah, a little bit of both, I suspect.
And a little bit of a FEMA camp going on there.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so I kind of thought, you know, if we march down there, we could just get to this little guy with a booth, you know, and he keep us from getting any further. Which, you know, it still would have been a pretty good idea for the passers-by. They would see the march, but then you got to get law enforcement to make sure, you know, everything's legal and no one gets hurt and everything. It's probably not the best idea. So inviting them to us, and like you said, they lose either way. They lose if they don't come. They definitely lose if they do come. And we could invite them right there to that park where we're gathered. And yeah, great idea. That's awesome.
Yeah, you know, and the more of us that are there to tell our stories too, the better.
Yeah,
So
because I know Joel is planning on doing like a picture, like a movie, basically a motion picture, documentary style. He's going to take some stories of people, and he wants it to be very positive. He wants people to get out their success stories and just, you know, how getting out has ultimately been better for them than staying in.
oh yeah.
And so, yeah, that would be a great time to do it. And we have a lot of plans. I mean, a lot of plans. I know that I am going to try and be there a couple days in advance. We're going to be trying to contact the community there around Warwick and invite them to this thing and let them know what's up. We're going to be shooting all kinds of footage that weekend, and you know, we're hoping to go live on site, and it's just going to be a great time. It's going to be an exciting time for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses because I don't think anybody's ever done anything like this before.
Yeah, there's a video shot back probably in the 80s where people picketed Brooklyn, but that's the only other thing like this that I'm aware of. But that was they actually picketed. So instead of picketing, you know, if we just have a forum where we can all speak and air our grievances basically and say, look, you know, here's what you guys have done to us, and invite them to be there, that'll be a first.
And the other thing I like about it, Spike, is that how much are people not really keen on the idea of protesting right now? Like this whole incident over in Virginia recently. I mean, I know that there's a lot of people who've got a bad taste in their mouth from protests. So
yeah, the timing's not very good.
The timing's not good at all. They kind of popped our balloon there. So inviting them to us and making the event at a separate location where, I mean, they're going to know about it. I mean, anything like that that's going to be huge, we're going to make sure they know, they're damn sure aware of what's happening. And we have some other things planned too that if we pull off will be quite exciting. But yeah.
Guys, I just gotta say that all these protests that are going on. See, Jehovah's behind all this, and he's making this happen. So he can make it a lot harder for any apostates to gather around that precious land out in New York.
You're right.
Well, I don't think there's going to be any Confederate war monuments in New York to be removed, so I think we'll be pretty safe from that.
Oh, I don't know, man. I'm sure we could find some somewhere.
Never know.
We might have to bring some.
All right. Dukes of Hazzard memorabilia. Maybe that'll do something. Trigger.
We can buy the General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard and drive up.
Yeah, I think we're going to focus on one cause at a time here. We're going to muddy the waters.
No. Speaking of which, there was another matter I wanted to talk tonight about, and that is, I don't know if anyone has noticed, but I don't know how they couldn't notice, but think about where we were as an ex-Jehovah's Witness community a year ago. When the Vast Apostate Hour first happened, Joel started something very unique, and it had momentum. People were coming out of the woodwork. We were getting to know people we'd never seen before. They were starting YouTube, their own channels, putting up their own stories, and we were getting them onto the show and getting to know them. And there was a lot of momentum. There was a lot of momentum for doing protest type stuff, or just, you know, trying to get involved and connected. And think about where we are now. Has anyone noticed that the ex-Jehovah's Witness community is not just polarized, it's not just divided, but it, like, to me, if I were to imagine it, it would look like a spider web. Like, it's just completely shattered. There's so many different segments to it. We've all been split, and I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
I've got a viewpoint. Ninja, I don't know if you wanted to go first or you want me to.
I think it's like with anything that when it grows, when a community or a group of people who have gone through an experience, and let's admit it, it was a traumatic one to go through and come out, and especially if you lost family members, to just be united on that basis alone isn't enough, in my opinion. I think that really you have to find ways to connect with people that you have other similarities, and that was the problem with being a part of the congregation, is that you were around people that you would never ever in your entire life even want to hang out with or be friends with, but you were, just because you had the same religion, you were forced to be in confined spaces with them when I was going 3 times a week or more. And so I think it's unrealistic to expect everyone who comes out to get along and have common interests. I mean, if you can find a group that has gone through that and you make friends with them because you have common interests outside of being a former Jehovah's Witness, I think that's where you can form the strong bonds. I think it's more important to form them than to try to create this huge network that's a conglomerate of, I don't know, that's just my opinion though.
It's almost like you heard what Spike said before we went live. Go ahead, Spike. Go ahead, Spike.
Yeah, you expressed that very well. Those are my thoughts as well. So especially those of us who were virtually raised in the organization, we never really had the time to figure out who we are. And so when you get out and you wake up from the trauma, depending on how deeply involved you were, how deeply indoctrinated, you have differing levels of trauma. And so some of us work through that quick, some of us work through that slow, and it's a pretty big impact. But once you get over that hump, the central focus, the obsession that you might have with saying, look, the watchtower's wrong, probably diminishes. There are people out there like the Mike and Kims that can keep doing this and have the energy for that. And before them, people like Randall Waters, who put years and decades even into the work. But I don't think that none of us, I don't think, would have grown up and said, I want to be an activist to wake people up from cult influence.
Right.
So that being the case, I think that when we first get out, we have all this energy, where we want to save other people from what we've been through. But I think that as time passes, you get to the point where you're going to live your life. And when you get to that point, you suddenly have, like you said, different interests that may not necessarily keep you cohesive as a group. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually healthy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's good to acknowledge that you do want to have a life afterwards. You don't want it to be your... I mean, I get that some are passionate about keeping going, and that's their mission. I mean, and all the power to them. But you hit the nail on the head, and you said not everybody wants to be an activist their whole life. So some of us just want to live normal lives.
And guys, I'm glad that we had this conversation, because I hadn't quite looked at us separating in a positive light before, and I definitely see where you're coming from, that it's kind of healthy or natural for us over time to get to know each other and be like, you know what, we're ex-witnesses, but that's not enough for me to necessarily want to continue to be your friend. And that's kind of what we're seeing. I know I've been unfriended by many people in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community because of my loudmouth opinions, and that's fine. But at the same time, I would like to see us try to just be a little less petty. I mean, here's the thing. I've decided to make it my life's mission to try my very best. I can't root out all of my own bias. I know that. I'm a human. But I've made it my life's mission to try my best to acknowledge it and try to meet people halfway. And I think that if more people did that, we would maintain our friendships, despite our political differences or our opinions or whatever. And I don't see people doing that very much, and it's really sad. Now, I had a question I want to ask each of you. Magnus, do you have bias?
A bias,
Any kind of bias at all?
of course. I mean, it's part of human nature to be biased. Otherwise, we'd just be a big blob of placenta, you know what I'm saying? An amoeba.
We'd be an amoeba. Yeah, I mean,
a blob of placenta wouldn't be very good. But anyways, of course, and I think that's what makes us all different. Is we all have biases, and there's nothing wrong with it in my view. I mean, I think it gives a different perspective, and we're not all collectivists in the point where we all act, look, think the same.
Well, Spike,
and that's healthy.
Yeah, Spike, I mean, come on, man, you don't have any biases, do you, Spike?
I think that we all have biases, but I would phrase it as saying that we all have preferences more so than biases. And our biases become, or our preferences get called our biases. So that being the case is we have things that we like to do. And that's our expression of our individuality. And we have the right to have those things.
Now, come on. Why don't you want to use the word bias, Spike? Tell me why you don't want to use the word bias.
I want to hear you
call them biases. You want to hear what?
What are you calling a bias? What is the definition then, Parker?
All right, well, listen, guys. I think that humans really don't want to admit that they have preferences, as Spike said, that sometimes keep them from seeing things clearly. I think that sometimes we have preferences that keep us in our tribalistic groups and our little cliques and whatnot, and it keeps us where we're comfortable, and that aligns us with our worldviews and whatnot. And I think that all of us cross the line of being biased at times. I know we don't like to use that word because when bias gets out of control, then stuff like cults are formed. You know what I mean? And that's why I think it's good for us to, once in a while, just have a little reality check and think about, are we just taking everything at face value that suits our worldview, or are we actually stopping for a minute and saying, you know, I'm going to actually investigate this and make sure that it's true, and I'm not going to share it until I know that it's true, just because it flatters my worldview. Like,
in that sense, I would say that I'm not biased because I like to take information from all sides, even the sides I don't necessarily like.
Yeah.
And once I do that and try to read between the lines, or just get a better idea of what everything's more than two sides, of course, as well. So it's hard to take in every single aspect of something, but I guess we naturally do have preferences, as Spike was saying, because it's just the way we are. I wouldn't call that a bias necessarily as well, but at the end of the day, if we can take other viewpoints and give them, an honest listen, then perhaps we can come closer to the truth that way. I don't mean the trademark truth. I mean the real truth.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Spike.
Yeah, actually, along those same lines, so each of us have lived our lives. We have our background, and that informs our worldview, if you will. So that being the case, that would be, I guess you could call that your normal bias. You're biased by what you've experienced, or you can call that your preference bias, whichever word you decide to use. That being the case, none of us has walked in anyone else's shoes, as the saying goes. So someone who's led a totally different lifestyle than we have, came from a totally different background, they're going to perceive things a lot differently than we do. So that being the case is myself, much like Magnus, I like to try to look at things from both viewpoints, because I find oftentimes, especially in the media in the U.S., you do not get the facts of what happened. You are told what you should think about them.
That's everywhere. That's everywhere, Spike. It's not just the U.S.
Yeah, and I'm trying to be.
It's up here too. We have the same problem up here, I guarantee.
It used to be the BBC wasn't like that, but they're even getting like that now.
BBC has gotten out of control. NPR? NPR, oh my god. NPR is getting bad.
Yeah, so I was going somewhere, now I lost my train of thought.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, well. Yeah, so, I mean, we have those biases, but that being the case is, I honestly believe that most people don't take time to step outside and look at things from someone else's point of view. And when you look at the group that we came from, we were taught specifically not to do that. We were taught that we were always right and the other guy is always wrong. So if you've been doing that for your whole life, however old you are, you might carry that with you into your life, and it's not an easy thing to work that out of your personality.
Yeah, and I just really want people to make sure they're not. I mean, it's just take the extra time. It's so worth it, you know. I mean, I know it's not easy because a lot of our friends and family hold this worldview, and to go against that can cause you a lot of problems. I mean, where have we heard this before, right? But it's really worth the time for your own moral character to just do a little digging and make sure everything that you think you know is correct. I mean, that's how we got out of the Jehovah's Witness organization in the first place. And, you know, that's not to say that you have to run around, you know, telling everybody they're wrong and, you know, get yourself kicked out of the family or something like that. But,
Yeah.
I mean, heck, I know I have a very good friend who can only have certain conversations with me because everyone around him has a very strictly opposing worldview. And there's sort of mob mentality in the community that he lives in, and I'm the only person he feels safe talking to about certain issues, and that's the direction I feel the world is going, and that's scary. That is scary as hell. Freedom of speech is going out the window if it disagrees with what you see on TV. So, you know, that's just something I wanted to bring out.
Well, if everybody stopped watching TV, then that might change it.
Well,
I don't know about that.
The internet's just as bad half the time.
Well,
The internet's worse.
The internet's worse, but at least you have control over what you. I guess you do with TV too. You can always shut it off, but
Yeah.
This is the real trouble I find is getting down to the facts of what actually transpired in the story is not always an easy thing to do, nor is it straightforward. If you dig deep enough, you can find it, but it's not always obvious what those facts are.
And it's hard to fault people for not checking 10 different sources to find out the truth of a story. I mean, most people only have time to read a headline, and oh my god, the headlines in this country are so false. Like, they're so bad, and they're so misleading, and they're so slanted. Anyways, we need to move on. This is... There's probably a lot of people who already stopped watching because they probably have an idea of what it is we're secretly getting at here. But, Spike, man, good to have you on, but it must have been like... I think the last time we did a Vast Apostate Hour, it was probably a year ago, wasn't it?
Probably close to that. It's been a while.
Those are some fun times, man. I was hoping to have Joel on, but now that we're doing Skype,
I kind of messed it up.
I probably can't. But yeah, guys, I hope as many of you as possible can come out for November 5th. It's going to be a really good time. We're going to have a lot of fun as well as make a little bit of history. And like I said, if you can't be there, do something fun in your community to cause awareness to the situation. I recently have discovered sidewalk chalk. I'm doing like murals in my local area at the park, and I want to do a big fancy one on the Kingdom Hall doorstep. You know, like that would be pretty epic. I'll have to go at like 4 a.m. or something when I know no one's gonna be there.
Yeah.
But
remember the cameras are all over those halls now. So
they are, but sidewalk chalk is not graffiti. It's funny, someone let me know that someone got in trouble for sidewalk chalking a courthouse, but they put it on the wall. I mean, I don't think they actually won. Like, I don't think they were actually prosecuted. I think that they were able to wiggle out of that one because it washed right off. There was no real damages. But
yeah.
I mean, I seriously doubt that if you put some non-offensive mural on the driveway of a Kingdom Hall that they're going to try and sue you for damages. I'm pretty sure that would be hilarious and thrown right out. Hopefully. Oh, I mean, we'll see. I'll let you know.
I don't know. As much as I think that would be funny, I'd recommend. I don't know how that's going to come out. I don't know. You could be right, but I don't know.
Oh, come on, Spike. We don't know until we try. You know what I mean?
Hey, if you wanna be in the vanguard of that for us.
I will. I will absolutely be in the vanguard of that, and I will let you know how that goes.
I think we should just make our own little carts with like crisis of conscience and stand in front of the Kingdom Hall as people are driving in.
Well, I know.
Start doing our own cart witnessing.
Yeah, that's great
That
too.
idea has come up a couple times, and nobody's ever done it yet.
Well, you'd have to be off their property because they will ask you to leave their property.
You could be on the street in front of them, though. They don't own the street.
Be on the street in front of them. I don't want to encourage that necessarily because someone's going to get run over. But yes, I like the idea.
Oh,
I
mean,
mean,
like sidewalk, not street. You know.
yeah,
Don't stand on the road.
How about setting up a booth next to their booth?
I mean, well,
could do that
guys, oh my gosh, it's funny you should say that. I have a video the day before yesterday. I haven't had a chance to edit it, but they came to my little park again, and I didn't get really loud and obnoxious and angry at them, but I was definitely annoyed that they came back after the last time I talked to them at that park, because I thought maybe they'd be reluctant to since they ran into an apostate. No, they came back. So this time I actually hit him with every fact I knew, and I got it on camera, and I'll be posting that probably next week. But yeah, absolutely. If you see a witness cart there, why don't you stand next to it, and everyone who comes to pick up a book, let them know, hey, Australian Royal Commission, over 1,000 cases of child abuse went unreported. I mean, they always set up in public places. There's nothing they can, I mean, what are they going to say? They say, oh, we don't want you talking to people. Well, too bad. It's a public place. The same freedom you have, I have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do not have the right to tell you not to talk to people.
Right. Exactly.
I think what they would do is just pack up and go somewhere
That's
else.
exactly what they did. Yeah, that's what they do. And that's honestly, Zeb, I'm worldly, has really inspired me to do that. Like, I hang out at that little park during the summer because Magnus, you know how rough the winters are. So the summer,
They can be.
yeah. So the summertime, I like to enjoy it as much as possible, and it just so happened I was at that park, and here they come. Yeah, but I think it's definitely a good idea if people would be more involved.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what, you could even go to them with their own old literature. I mean, bring some Live Forever books. Say, yeah, remember this one about the generation that saw 1914? Whatever happened to that?
Absolutely, man. And
I'd love to see, they would talk about Brighter Light or something, but just say, yeah, how is an overlapping generation a better understanding?
yeah, and I think the biggest thing is you got to juggle not giving the cult any more of your time versus trying to create awareness. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's just one of those things. Like, I just happen to be in the park because I like being outdoors and I like being at the park. And then there they were. And because I've got this YouTube channel and I've done all this research and I've talked about this stuff over and over and over again, it just flies out of my mouth. I know a lot of people aren't necessarily there, but the more you walk up and talk to them and talk about, all the things that they don't know about, the easier it's going to be for you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, the thing, too, is to keep in mind is, like, just the whole dynamic of how cults work. That there's always going to be people in society that are susceptible to recruitment by cults just because that's the way people work. There's going to be people that will be stuck in the cults, because they're so brainwashed under the mind control that you're not going to be able to wake them up. And there's always going to be people that are waking up and coming out. So that being the case, I mean, each of us has to decide how much time and effort we want to spend, as you said, doing that. So I think that if you come across a situation where you have the opportunity and you decide you want to do it, I think it's a great thing to do. I've actually got a friend that does just that. She walks up to the carts when people are talking and she tells them the real truth about the truth. And I think that if that's something that you want to do and that the opportunity presents itself, go for it. If you want to do more than that, definitely go for it. I think that we'll always have an audience.
Absolutely, man, and that's just it. Nobody's asking you to put in 40 hours of of ex-Jehovah's Witness talk or apostatizing or whatever. But
yeah, I used to be the secretary, so send your time cards to me. I'll make sure we keep accurate records.
You heard it here first, guys.
Some apostate time cards. I love it.
That's right.
Well, Spike, I've noticed that your time is a little low this month. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm not quite the apostate I used to be. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really is anymore, which is a good thing, and it's a good and a bad thing. I don't know how to feel about it. I guess it's just it is what it is.
Well, you know something? So November 5th can be like our big party, if you will. It's our chance to all get together, to meet each other face to face, for those of us who haven't. We can have our one big final hurrah where we like really make an impact. We do something positive, we give people a chance to get together to express their stories, and we expose Watchtower for what there is. The big point of what we're doing is just to get the message out to as many people as we possibly can, to either save them from becoming Watchtower slaves, or to get them out. And as long as we're doing that and having a good time, I think that's great.
Yeah, and you make a good point. If you've not done anything like that before and you'd like to, this could be your one big hurrah. You know, I know a lot of us are kind of bored with the subject. We're wanting to just like put this whole thing behind us. I'd like to do other things with my channel. So for me, November 5th is my last middle finger to the Watchtower, you know, and I think Joel feels the same way. So you guys out there, November 5th can be, you know, it could be your contribution, and it would be awesome if we, oh man, can you imagine if all the people who actually spoke to someone were able to get it on camera and upload it onto their channels that day? Like, oh, that would be such a saturation of awesomeness. And I know Joel would love to gather those YouTube videos, mirror them all in one place, like on the Vast Apostate Hour. And heck, that would be a great way to document this moment in time, this moment in history where we did something that's never been done before, and you can always go back and look at that, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I would love to see at the November 5th is people wearing thin headbands and long hair waves, and shaking their hands in the air, and some of them looking like one guy looked like Mark Harmon or something.
Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, I think that would really send a good message to them.
Are you talking about people waving medium-sized sticks, Mag?
Yes. You remember the picture? I think it was the
Revelation book.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually, you know, that'd be a fun activity if we actually try to replicate scenes from the Revelation book. Like, not the ones where fireballs are crashing on buildings, obviously. But
we can make that happen.
We can make character costumes. Hey,
you know, now that Game of Thrones is popular, we've got to be able to find a big red dragon somewhere, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I work in film. I might be able to scrounge something up.
Oh, that's so perfect. It's all coming together, guys. It's all coming together. If you will allow me to go check in on the live chat and see what is happening in there. I just want to see what's up here. Hey guys, what's up? Edie says Joel is in militia training for the apostate uprising. Yeah, that's true. Joel, yeah, Joel would be one of the last people I messed with in a apocalypse type situation, because he's pretty much already set. He's ready. Let's see. Let me scroll back a little bit. Dude State Project says, taking it back, we weren't allowed to eat Lucky Charms because the cereal box could be demonized because it was lucky. Not sure where that came from, but yeah, I remember those days.
Everything
had their own little thing.
Everything that was kind of pop culture was demonized.
Yeah. God,
they were Sparluck before Sparluck existed.
What happened to that? They really dropped off on that subject, didn't they?
You know what it is each family had their own little interpretation of it. I mean, there was your urban mythology, like, oh, the Smurf that got up and walked down the stairs at the convention type stuff. But then, like, each family would have their version of what they thought was demonized, and it varied from family to family.
Yeah.
Do you also think that the more they highlight the really supernatural stuff, the more they kind of seem ridiculous?
I think it's pretty hard for them to seem any more ridiculous than they are.
You're right. I'm sorry. Stupid point. But yeah, but it is weird how they just completely. I mean, I don't think they ever talk about demons anymore. I mean, when I was a kid, they had everyone convinced that everything you do in the world could get you demonized, and now, like, they don't even bring it up to my knowledge. Like, I don't remember the last time I saw an article about it.
Yeah, there was a policy shift on that because they used to be big into that, but then somewhere, I forget, it might have been in the 90s, they said, "Oh, look, we're not going to start. We're going to stop saying everything's demonized. Basically, we don't need the fearmonger, or however they put it. They fearmonger different ways now." So.
Well, they were a little late. They terrorized me as a child. I know. Jesus.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, I grew up when the Cold War was in full force, and Reagan was ready to push the button at any time. And then on top of that, Armageddon was coming.
Armageddon and demons on top of it.
Demons, Armageddon, nuclear war. I mean, how much? What else do you need for a good time than demons, Armageddon, and nuclear war?
Spike, I'm of the same generation, and I remember it so clearly, and that's why I think to this day I kind of get a kick out of any kind of religious, culty kind of end of the world scenario that they come up, because we got a double whammy at that time.
You know what, guys? Me and my friend were talking just the other day about how is there a correlation between people who are emotionally strong people who are not easily freaked out by, say, current events, or aren't easily triggered? Is there a correlation between those type of people and being raised religious? Because we were talking about it. Think about it. Like, we were raised to expect serious shit to happen, like, at any moment. The world ending type of stuff. Like, we had that emotionally on us at a very young age, and it was on the back of our mind, and we dealt with that. And I don't think I think people, perhaps, I don't know, what do you think, Spike?
So as far as regular religion's concerned, I'm not sure, because I've never really been in a regular religion. I've only been in a cult. I mean, I was baptized Catholic as a baby, but who remembers that? So anyways, though, I think the people that join cults are going to be more likely to be people that have, like, something serious has come up in your life. You're at a place where you're, for whatever reason, an emotional low, and the cult comes in to be your support group. That's where the love bombing on the front end happens. So then, whatever you were like before that, they then instill whatever crazy beliefs they have into your head, which for us was like fear of Armageddon, demons. I remember at 5 years old thinking I was never going to get out of elementary school. But now I can have a kid in high school if I wanted to. So as far as regular religions, though, I don't really know, because one half of my family on my mother's side is religious. The other half of the family on my father's side is not that religious. So I don't know. I've never really asked anybody.
So, Magnus, what do you think, man? Do you think that a person that was not raised religious is going to be emotionally prepared to see, like, tragic things happening on the news? Whereas people like us, I mean, we expected that to get worse. That was already something that we were prepared for. Like, I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think they're not going to be prepared. I think, especially if they've led a kind of sheltered life, which I think we're seeing a whole generation. I'm not going to say who they are, but we all kind of know. They've been, given a participation ribbon their whole life for menial things, and I think that those people are going to be most ill prepared. At the same time, though, I think people who grew up like we did
are a little damaged.
Yeah, we are. We're a little messed up, and it's normal. I mean, there have been lots of studies by psychologists and professionals who've shown that that kind of trauma is actually worse than sexual trauma as a child in some ways, and unfortunately in the Jehovah's Witness religion they had both.
Some people had both, yeah.
So that is the most. Imagine going through both and how hard it is for those people.
Yeah. Well, one thing is I always compare being in a cult to being in an abusive relationship. It's basically, when you're in a cult, you are in an abusive relationship with an organization that's basically emotionally abusing you. So that being the case, that's a very traumatic thing. And for those of us that were in when we were children, there's a different level of that, kind of as you were mentioning too. So that is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know. I guess it kind of gives us a bit of a stronger coat of armor to deal with the traumatic things, especially when it comes to the psychological aspect of them. But is it a good thing that I don't know. I mean, you got to make the best of what you have, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the thing, guys. We've got to stop we gotta stop this idea that our mental process and our way of life is the best, and you know, you're beneath us. You know, I mean, it is what it is. People are different, and that doesn't mean they're wrong. Doesn't mean we're right. I'm really trying hard, guys. Like, I'm really trying hard to stop thinking that I am right and everyone else is wrong. Like, I'm really making that effort. But you know,
Well, that's a sign of maturity, Parker.
Yeah. That takes time.
It absolutely, and it's something you don't ever give up on either.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so. There's some things that have happened to us, or that we carry from the cult, that we might be carrying for our life, and there's some that we might not. But as long as we're cognizant of them, if we catch ourselves falling back into them, you know, then we can say, okay, well, I've still got some more work to do here. But I think November 5th, you know, we can have a nice barbecue, have some nice human hot dogs, and make everyone feel better.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I hope that we all come together, and maybe people who aren't the best of friends anymore come out anyway. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we did have that thing in common, the Jehovah's Witness, you know, the Jehovah's Witness experience. That should be like a bad television show, the Jehovah's Witness experience. You know what I mean? Like, no, they have that. It's called JW Broadcasting, right?
Yeah. No, it's called Cops. No, I'm just kidding.
But guys, I think we'll wrap this up. I know the VAH is kind of one show to go for like 3 or 4 hours, but I don't think I could do it. I kind of did want to maybe have you guys give a final word, talk about anything you want to get out there before we close this thing up. Starting maybe with you, Ninja.
Well, all I gotta say is keep on keeping on, and don't let the fools fool you.
Keep on keeping on. I love it. What about you, Spike?
Let me think about this. So that just live your life in a positive way. You've gotten out of the cult now. Don't let the cult own the rest of your life. If you have the time, though, if you have the courage, get your story out there. The more of us to do that, the more of us to say something, we've added our voice. I do encourage that, but beyond that, do what you want. Live your life the way you want. You have your freedom. Enjoy it.
Well said.
Awesome. Well said, guys. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your lives to do this. A lot of us are kind of moving on, but I would like to get some more people on a live broadcast or two leading up to November 5, because, like I said, this could be our last final hurrah, and you know, I'd like to see a little bit more momentum, that old momentum, come back right before this thing, and then, you know, you can wash your hands of it, whatever, do whatever, live your life. So thank you guys for coming on the show tonight. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
My
thanks,
pleasure.
Parker.
All right, guys, let's close her down. I don't know. It's not the vast apostate hour technically, because Joel's not here, Eric's not here, so I don't know if I want to push the button in the broadcast. I think that might be sacrilegious. Maybe we'll just end it right here abruptly. Good night, everybody.
Good night.